In 1978, Mafia Supremo Gaetano Badalamenti is running one of the largest transcontinental crime rings the US and Europe has ever seen. This same year, the bloody remains of former family friend and political activist Giuseppe Peppino Impastato are found on a Sicilian railway line. Authorities declare his death is as a result of a failed terrorist attempt or suicide. A conclusion his supporters firmly reject.
È evidente che c'era stata la decisione da parte di Badalamenti di volere la morte di Peppino.
It will take a quarter of a century for Peppino's family to finally face Badalamenti in court.
No, vendetta no. Voglio giustizia.
Peppino Impastato is born in the pretty coastal town of Cinisi in Sicily's northwest in 1948. Like many in Sicily at the time, his father Luigi has links to the local mafia. He counts among his friends and neighbors a local mafia enforcer, Gaetano Badalamenti. Both work for Peppino's uncle, the mafia boss, Cesare Manzella.
Dirigeva tutta l'organizzazione mafiosa, diciamo lo zio, il nonno, il fratello del padre, che erano tutti mafiosi. Per noi erano persone che ammiravamo tantissimo, ci proteggevano, non ci facevano mancare nulla.
The young Peppino is particularly close to his uncle and grows up on the Manzella farm with his parents Luigi and Felicia and younger brother Giovanni. But in 1963, a horrific event changes the two brothers' whole attitude to the mob. Their uncle Cesare is blown up by a car bomb.
Da quel momento in poi finisce la nostra infanzia, diventiamo subito grandi, inizia la nostra sofferenza. È il nostro percorso di impegno perché abbiamo capito che la mafia non era qualcosa di positivo. Peppino si è espresso in se questa è mafia, io per tutta la vita mi batterò contro.
But Gaetano Badalamenti has a very different reaction. For him, Manzella's death is an opportunity. He now takes control of the Cinisi mafia, and it makes him rich. His businesses start getting lucrative construction contracts from the local government, including the expansion of Palermo's airport, which helps his own growing drug trafficking business between Sicily and the US. The two men, Peppino and Badalamenti, who had once been friends, find themselves on a course that will see them come to blows for nearly 15 years. Because Peppino devotes himself to a whole host of anti-mafia causes. He founds an anti-mafia radio station. He runs an anti-mafia newspaper. He holds impromptu anti-mafia gatherings in Cinisi's town square. And the target of many of his attacks is his neighbor and former family friend, Gaetano Badalamenti. In his satirical radio broadcasts, Peppino ridicules him while accusing him of corruption and drug trafficking.
Parola di Tano Seduto, grande capo di mafiosi. Ci sarà un porticciolo bellissimo.
Potremo sistemare le nostre veloci canoe che porteranno al di là del mare la sabbia bianca.
Le nostre canoe cariche di eroiche.
In quel periodo, pensate un po', negli anni 60, che parlare di mafia era impossibile. Questi erano mostri sacri, per molti la mafia non esisteva e già Peppino lanciava le sue prime accuse dirette.
Despite the obvious risks of taking on the mafia, Peppino's mother stands up for him.
Lei era una donna non colta, non era colta mia madre, però molto intelligente, era sensibile e intelligente. Mia madre poi subito ha capito che le scelte di Peppino erano quelle giuste.
For Peppino's father Luigi, a low-ranking member of the Cinisi mafia, Peppino's behavior puts him in a difficult and dangerous position. In 1977, Luigi is walking home from work. When he is hit by a car and killed in an apparent accident. Then, 8 months later, at dawn on May the 9th, 1978, the Carabinieri, the local police, are called to a secluded spot on the outskirts of Cinisi. A section of railway track has been blown apart. A man's bloody remains are scattered over a 300-meter area. They are the remains of Peppino Impastato. Umberto Santino is another political activist from nearby Palermo.
Quando abbiamo saputo di cos'era accaduto, io, mia moglie e altri siamo precipitati a Cinisi. Abbiamo visto che c'era una situazione terribile, cioè si parlava di terrorismo, di suicidio.
The local police offer two explanations. Either Peppino has accidentally killed himself while planting a bomb, or he's committed suicide. And local newspapers support their claims. One headline reads, "Leftist fanatic blown apart by own bomb on railway track." Peppino's friends, however, are convinced these claims make no sense.
Peppino era uno che era un pacifista, era uno che amava l'ironia, amava essere clownesco, lungi dall'essere violento.
Ma abbiamo capito subito, parlando con dei compagni, che si trattava di un omicidio doppio.
Their suspicions are further raised when they find blood inside a small shack, just yards from the railway line. The shack's entrance points away from the railway tracks. There is no way the blood could have got in there as a result of the explosion. So how has it got there?
Io arrivai subito dopo perché ero militare in quel periodo. I compagni di Peppino trovarono subito le pietre insanguinate col sangue di Peppino in tutt'altro luogo.
Amidst the circulating rumors and suspicions about how he died, Peppino's funeral on the 10th of May is a massive outpouring of grief and anger. A multitude turn out in support of the anti-mafia campaigner.
Il funerale è stata una vera e propria manifestazione, un vero e proprio corteo, oggi paragonabile ai cortei che si fanno per gli scioperi, quindi c'era parecchia gente, molta emozione.
Eravamo più di 2000 persone. È stato un punto di partenza per dire alla mafia che noi non ci rassegniamo, noi continueremo. Abbiamo avuto Siamo andati proprio davanti a casa Badalamenti, proprio a gridare proprio lì davanti, a indicarlo come l'assassino di Peppino. Ecco, e quello è stato un segnale forte.
Peppino's mother, Felicia, and brother Giovanni, together with Umberto Santino, now resolve to uncover the truth. Ignoring continuing dangers, Santino, with the family's support, now begins a campaign to bring Badalamenti to justice.
Il ruolo che poi abbiamo avuto per dimostrare che si trattava di un omicidio e quindi per chiedere giustizia e per salvare la memoria di Peppino con una serie di iniziative.
Together, they start to gather evidence.
Non mi vergogno a dire che ci siamo trasformati noi come familiari assieme ad alcuni compagni di Peppino nella prima fase in investigatori.
But finding out what really happened on the night of May the 8th proves very difficult. If the mafia were responsible for Peppino's death, their plan had been very effective. The campaigners believe Peppino's history of political activism provided Badalamenti with the perfect scenario with which to stage his death. In the 1970s, Italy had suffered a wave of violence at the hands of hardline communist groups.
Che lui doveva passare per terrorista. E non era difficile accomunare un militante dell'estrema sinistra con un terrorista.
Family and friends believe that Badalamenti had used this political climate to make Peppino's death appear as if he had accidentally blown himself up while planting a terrorist bomb. But his family and friends think it would have been totally out of character for him to commit an act of violence, not least because it would have hurt the very workers he often campaigned for.
Peppino non avrebbe mai fatto una cosa del genere. Il treno che doveva passare di là era il treno dei pendolari, quello con gli operai, quello che lui, le persone che lui difendeva, che andava a trovare in fabbrica, non avrebbe mai fatto saltare quel treno.
Such is Badalamenti's power and influence around Cinisi. The family are convinced that the local police don't want to get to the bottom of what really happened.
Diciamo, hanno fatto tutto il possibile per affossare la verità.
For 6 years, the family gets nowhere. Meanwhile, Badalamenti's operation continues to grow. He has become one of the key players of a multi-million-dollar heroin trafficking operation that imports heroin from the Middle East and distributes it across America through a chain of pizza parlors. But then there's an unexpected breakthrough for Peppino's family.
Federal law enforcement officials are celebrating what they consider to be a major victory in their war against organized crime. A former head of the Sicilian Mafia and 16 other reputed organized crime figures convicted yesterday of running one of the biggest heroin smuggling rings ever uncovered.
Badalamenti is tried and found guilty in a New York court for masterminding a 9-year-long, $1.65 billion drugs ring known as the Pizza Connection. The 17-month trial of 22 Sicilian mafia men turns into a media circus. Badalamenti is the key player in the operation, distributing heroin and cocaine and coordinating a string of violent crimes. In 1987, the 63-year-old Badalamenti is sentenced to 45 years in a US prison. Buoyed by the spectacle of Badalamenti on trial in the US, back in Sicily, Peppino's mother Felicia, desperate to bring the killer of her son to justice, decides to write a book. In it, she recalls an incident when her husband was summoned by Badalamenti.
Luigi Impastato, il padre di Peppino, va a casa di Badalamenti e lì evidentemente Badalamenti gli ha detto: guarda che con tuo figlio non ne possiamo più. Noi siamo saltati sul tavolo, sulla sedia, quando abbiamo sentito dalla madre di Peppino questo, perché c'era una prova evidente che c'era stata la decisione da parte di Badalamenti di volere la morte di Peppino.
Felicia's recollection is clearly significant. But there's still a long way to go to corroborate it. Then, in 1994, with Badalamenti behind bars, they get the witness they need. A member of the Cinisi Mafia, Salvatore Palazzolo, has turned police informant. He claims to have information from a relation and Badalamenti's right-hand man, Vito Palazzolo, about Peppino's death. The family asked the police to confront him.
Abbiamo fatto un esposto, l'abbiamo fatto firmare alla madre e abbiamo chiesto alla procura di interrogare questo Salvatore Palazzolo per chiedere se sapeva qualcosa sul delitto impastare. E lui ha detto: siamo stati noi.
This is the evidence they are looking for. Badalamenti, it seems, really had given an order to kill Peppino. In 1996, nearly 20 years after Peppino's death, a dossier detailing the role of Gaetano Badalamenti in the death of the young activist is presented to the Italian courts. Eventually, the case is reopened. At last, the family can seek justice. Now an elderly woman, Felicia invites television cameras into her home.
No, vendetta no. Voglio giustizia. No, la vendetta è una cosa brutta. Voglio giustizia, che siano puniti sta gente.
Finally, in 2000, the case comes to trial. The family prepare to confront the man they believe to be Peppino's murderer. Inside the court of Palermo, a 77-year-old Gaetano Badalamenti appears from Fairton Prison, New Jersey.
Vedevamo in un video, in uno schermo in tempo reale. È stato il primo processo fatto in videocollegamento a Palermo.
The prosecution aim for maximum impact. They call Felicia as a witness.
Un brivido ha percorso chiaramente la schiena di tutti, perché quello era il capo di Cosa Nostra e lei era una povera donna malata e che a stento è arrivata al pretorio perché sostenuta dal figlio, da Umberto Santino, ma con un coraggio incredibile.
Felicia takes the stand and identifies the murderer of her son.
Poi questa donna ha avuto il coraggio durante i processi di puntare il dito su uno dei più grandi boss di allora, che era Gaetano Badalamenti.
The court is told at length why Badalamenti had a powerful motive for killing Peppino. They hear how Peppino had criticized Badalamenti's business dealings, including his construction company's shady building activities and his drug trafficking business. And significantly, the court is told that in the days leading up to his death, Peppino had been standing as a candidate in the local elections on an anti-mafia ticket.
Chiaro che all'interno del Consiglio Comunale lui sarebbe stato dirompente, avrebbe, contato di più, avrebbe avuto un peso per quanto riguarda un po' l'opposizione.
If Peppino had won the election, it would have given him the means to curb Badalamenti's illicit activities. The prosecution then explains what it thinks really happened to Peppino. On the night of the 8th of May 1978, he had been followed on his drive home after his shift at his radio station, Radio Out. Just a few miles from home, Peppino was pulled from his car and taken to the Stone Shack close to the railway line. He was then violently beaten with stones. It accounts for the blood splatter found by Peppino's friends in the shack, yet ignored by police. Peppino was then dragged, either semi-conscious or unconscious, to the deserted railway line and laid across the tracks, on top of 5 kilograms of TNT, an explosive often used by Badalamenti's construction companies. The charge was then detonated. Crucially, the court hears that a forensic examination of a stone collected from the shack by one of Peppino's friends on the morning after his death is covered in blood, which is an exact match with Peppino's. For Peppino's family, the description of exactly what happened to him is horrific.
Io penso che sia veramente difficile poter descrivere queste sensazioni e in particolare quello che si prova di fronte a un atroce delitto compiuto in questo modo.
Finally, the prosecution rests. With Badalamenti looking on, his legal counsel now put the case for the defense.
La difesa di Gaetano Badalamenti è stata quella classica dei mafiosi, quella dell'estraneità totale anche a Cosa Nostra.
Badalamenti denies any association with the Sicilian mafia. It's designed to show he had no motive for killing an anti-mafia campaigner. And he goes a step further. The defense also point out that Badalamenti is an old friend of Peppino's family and could therefore never have hurt him. And they even claim he supported Peppino's politics. But this is refuted by the deposition of mafia informer Salvatore Palazzolo. He flatly contradicts Badalamenti, confirming that he had information from Badalamenti's deputy that the mafia boss had ordered the murder of Peppino Impastato. The jury retire to consider their verdict. After only one day of deliberation, on April the 11th, 2002, the court of Palermo reaches its decision.
535 Codice Procedura Penale.
Gaetano Badalamenti is finally found guilty of the murder of Peppino Impastato. But for the family, there are more mixed feelings.
Ho sentito qualche espressione di liberazione da parte di qualcuno, di quelli che seguivano il processo in aula. Noi non abbiamo mai provato odio e vendetta nei loro confronti. Il nostro obiettivo era quello di arrivare alla verità.
Badalamenti is given a life sentence. He dies in prison 2 years later in 2004, aged 80. Two months after that, Peppino's mother Felicia also passes away. But her job is done. She and her family's fight for justice gains legendary status back home.
Io credo che loro abbiano fatto una cosa di grandissimo valore, di grandissima difficoltà. Sono dovuti mettere contro tutto l'ambiente di cinisi e dell'ambiente mafioso. Credo che sia una bella storia di orgoglio e di dignità siciliana.
The story of the Impastato family has become part of Sicilian folklore. It has come to represent the wider fight of ordinary people against the mafia. Peppino has become a true hero, a man who was born into a mafia family but chose to walk another path.
Peppino aveva fatto delle scelte giuste, aveva fatto delle scelte proprio che erano scelte di civiltà, di democrazia.
Non ci sono altri casi di persone che hanno lottato radicalmente contro la mafia e hanno perso anche la vita che provenissero da una famiglia mafiosa. La radicalità nell'attaccare la mafia, ma anche l'intelligenza con cui lo faceva.
In the days following his death, the doors of the Impastato home were thrown open to the anti-mafia movement. Today they remain open as a permanent memorial to Peppino Impastato and as a reminder of how a family bravely stood up to the Sicilian mafia.